Hello folks, it's me on a Thursday with another review show. Before I begin what was pretty good stack this week, I have a little bit of a kind of an announcement to make about the channel and a little bit of disruption to the usual scheduling. I have a new role at work, which means I'm going to have to be working away from home throughout the week, coming home at weekends. Now this could only last a week, it could last a month, I don't know. So basically what that means is there will not be, for the foreseeable future, and again like I said it might only be a week, but there won't be a review show on a Thursday night as has always been the case. So what will probably happen, because I get home quite early on a Friday, the review show will probably, and it will be a very shortened version, it won't be these 20-minute to half an hour jobs that I normally do. It will be a very short, hopefully concise review show for the foreseeable future. Apologise for that, but it's out of my hands, I'm away, I can't pick up my comics. So if you don't see a review show next Thursday, don't cry, don't worry about me. I'm just hard and steeped in tons of work that I have to learn. So let's get on with the comics. Let's talk about good things, exciting things. Let's start with Green Lantern issue 17. My patience is wearing thin, and you know how ridiculously loyal I am to this title. We started a new storyline. It's this Wrath of the First Lantern. It begins this issue. Apparently the Third Army Rising was quelled. And it just took basically a wave of the hand by the First Lantern, I guess. I just don't know. It didn't end in the last issue. I guess it ended in Green Lantern Corps or the Red Lanterns. I have no clue. And it just says it all in this issue. Even the First Lantern says they don't matter, they never did. And I feel exactly the same way. The last storyline was pointless drivel. It really was. It may have looked very pretty, but it didn't mean a thing. Especially, I guess, if you were only picking up this title. Anyway, Wrath of the First Lantern, here we go. We start off with a kind of prologue, 10 billion years in the past, and we meet up with Krona again. Last time I saw him, he was in the War of the Lanterns event, which was pretty good. And there's Volthoom in there. I'm not quite sure who he was, but I guess he's kind of this First Lantern. And the First Lantern's idea is he wants to change the past. He seems to have these reality-bending powers, but he needs emotion to power himself up. And clearly the Guardians have been lately sucking him dry, creating their Third Army for whatever use they were. So he needs to charge himself up, and he needs to go out and find someone who's full of emotion that he can siphon off. Baz, he's kind of doing his own thing with Black Hand and helping the first Guardians that are trapped in the cube to escape, or, you know, release them from their imprisonment. And we wonder if Baz is going to be the one to rescue Hal and Sinestro, who are supposedly dead, stuck in this limbo environment. It's all a little confusing for this reader. I'll still stick with it. I know I'm crazy. It all looks, again, very pretty. Mankey and Jürgen's artwork are just beautiful. The colorist, I'm not sure who the colorist, it could be Jimenez, it could be Nguyen, or it could be Irwin. There's so many artists on this book, but it's all very colourful, big splash pages. If you're a Green Lantern fan and you're as stubborn as I am, you're probably still picking up, but I wouldn't suggest jumping on right here, right now. Decided to pick up at least one issue #1 this week because quite a few did come out, and I thought to go the Marvel route, and I picked up Nova issue 1 just to try it out. Basically, I'm not really familiar with the character as such. This is, well, it's a dad and a son. The dad is clearly a Nova from the past, or the close to the past, and he's kind of retelling stories of his high adventures as one of these Novas, and his son is a bit jaded because now his dad's a washout. For some reason, his dad is no longer the Nova, and he's going from dead-end job to a dead-end job. And the son is basically acting as the father. He's having to take the father's role, with which he's none too pleased. There is this kind of Peter Parker feel about it because he's being bullied at school. He really likes a cute girl that he doesn't think he's ever going to have a chance with. So you kind of get that very early Peter Parker at school days. And we get thrown in Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, they're coming in, so let's throw them in a comic to get everyone prepped for their new title coming out. So the Raccoon's there, and I think she's green or blue. I forgot what her name was. It's all very colourful. It's bright. I'd almost say it's aimed at a younger audience, which is something, you know, that Marvel has been missing. It's been very dark and adult orientated. And here we have not necessarily something light, but something maybe a young teenager could identify with, whether it's kind of being bullied at school or having a no-hope dad. But Ed McGuinness, I've always loved his artwork. So him being on here was definitely a pull for me to pick this up and give it a go. Yeah, give it a try if you want something a little bit more. It's very cinematic. There are some, you know, big action scenes, kind of blockbuster shooting of lasers and into the fray and all that. So I did actually enjoy it, and I'll pick up #2 and see how it goes from there. Not on my pull list yet, but it could be potentially. From Dark Horse, Star Wars issue 2 comes out, and we had kind of 3 concurrent storylines going through Star Wars. Leia has brought her Black Ops team together, given that she thinks there's a traitor in their midst, and wherever they go to find a new planet to settle on and to put their new rebel base, for some reason the Empire is always there. So she's put together this Black Ops team. They all look a bit suspect, as they always do, so you wonder, is the traitor in the Black Ops team already, and this is going to be pointless. The other story, we've got Han Solo and Chewbacca. They're making a rendezvous to drop off what appears to be a huge stash of cash, but being followed by a Star Destroyer, and so their efforts to escape and evade them by jumping all the time. And then we have what was his name? Colonel Bennett. He is Darth Vader's successor to running the Devastator, the Star Destroyer from the original movie that, as I said, Darth Vader was in charge of before he was taken off to do other things. I like this title, and I'm just kind of going with it. obviously, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. It's got to be there. The original trilogy is in my top 20 movies of all time. It would have to be. They are such classics. But I think I'm probably missing out on more than there is in here, due to I'm not like in-depth knowledge man of the Star Wars universe. Someone who's read a lot of these Dark Horse titles probably will find this an easier read, but I'm just going along for the ride because I love Star Wars and it is quite an interesting story so far. DC Vertigo, issue 126 of Fables, and it got a bit grim and dark. There's certainly a turn for the worst for Snow White. Yes, we have Brandish coming out, so to speak, as Snow White's betrothed. This was a storyline from quite a while back, where there was obviously a kind of magical pact that shouldn't have been broken, where the two were to be married, but due to unforeseen circumstances, they've been apart for this long. Obviously, Snow White's now married Bigby Wolf. But it's Brandish's character in this that is quite shocking and scary, and it's a good job this isn't a Vertigo title, because it is quite an adult-themed character-driven story. Brandish is comes across as very misogynistic. Well, not necessarily misogynistic, but a woman should know her place. He clearly wants to marry Snow White and intends to, even if that means fighting Bigby. But it's the way he treats Snow White. It's very kind of, I'm the man, you are the woman, and you will do as I say. I'm the head of the household. He wants to get rid of Snow White's children as if they'd never existed, so he can have what he calls pure children. It was very grim and dark. Not that Fables doesn't have these kind of adult themes going through, but it certainly took me by surprise. But well worth it. You always hear me say great things about Fables, and always recommend anyone picking Fables up and going back and reading the other 100-odd issues, even if only in trade. There's a few little excerpts in there with Bigby still looking for the kids. And there's the Blue Fairy come to claim Geppetto. Great stuff, as always. Also a great comic this week was Indestructible Hulk, issue 4. Great cover, almost kind of like a Heart of Darkness, coming out of the war to deal. This starts off, we find out that Banner has been located to a disused kind of like atomic bomb testing ground. Just in case he turns into the Hulk, he's not going to hurt anyone around him. And this is where the kind of science offices and his team are going to be situated to remind everyone that Bruce Banner was actually a leading scientist in his field. And you kind of get the impression this is just going to be kind of a day in the life of Banner and meeting the new team, where, you know, we get a few laughs and a giggles in there from Mark Waid. But just as we're introduced to the team and they're off about to do their science, discovering new things and creating new things, we have a heap of trouble going on in the ocean. Lemuria, we last saw it in the last volume of Hulk. What was thought of as a mythical island, a mythical underwater city, well, it's got a little bit angry, and we've got sea monsters rearing their vicious and ugly heads, led by a tumor. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason why this is happening at the moment, but when you've got huge sea monsters coming out of the ocean, you're going to throw the Hulk at them, which is what happens. We get to see the awesome Dreadnought underneath the sea, which is basically, Dreadnought is Shield's helicarrier, but it's like underwater, which was just great. Again, and I say this every issue, and I'm glad he's coming off it soon, but I really still have a problem with Lionel Yu's artwork. It's really confusing on pages to understand exactly what's going on, especially in the action scenes. The action scenes look, or they should look, amazing if a decent enough artist was on it, but he just can't cut it. And maybe this is why we're going to have a new artist on this on issue 6. So we're down to the last 2. One of them certainly made it pick of the week. But coming in a very, very close second, it is, of course, Batwoman, issue 17. And it really is the end this time. It really is the end. Oh, we finally come to the end of our kind of quite overreaching storyline, which kind of began really right at the very beginning of this run, so 16 issues ago. And it is another kind of tour de force, not quite up to last month's standards, but certainly a hell of a lot goes on here. We've got characters dying, we've got characters getting their revenge, we've got dismemberment, we've got defeats, we've got proposals, and right at the very end, we have someone who we thought was dead, but isn't, and are in the hands of the DEO. And obviously coupled with the absolutely gorgeous art from J.H. Williams, this has just been a treat. This last kind of story arc, if that's what you want to call it, the artwork has just been outstanding from start to finish. Just beautifully imagined, creative paneling and layouts. I don't care that this story has taken what has been essentially 17 issues to finish. It's been wonderful from start to finish, and I've never felt bored or wanting it to be rushed to get to the point. Highly recommended. Go pick out the trades for these, if only for the artwork. If only for the artwork. So that leaves one more comic left, despite the fact I should have had one more, but I'll get to that right at the very end. My pick of the week for the comics that I managed to get: Daredevil issue 23. Oh, this actually put a kind of reminiscing smile on my face. I'm one of the guys within our comic book community at the moment that is trying to complete their volume 1 run of Daredevil, and I'm reading a lot from the 80s, and without fail, however short or however long they do this, they will remind the reader in the comics from the 80s how Daredevil got his powers, what that accident right at the very beginning did to Matt Murdock, how it heightened all his remaining senses, despite leaving him blind. And at the start of this book, it looks as though that is what you're getting. You're having a retelling of Daredevil's origins, but Mark Waid is so clever and just surprises you with this. You have the streets, the lorry coming along with the toxic waste in it. You've got the blind man crossing the road. You've got hands reaching out to save that blind man, but in turn knocking him over, throwing the toxic waste over them. But this isn't Matt Murdock's origin. Someone is trying to recreate Daredevil's origin and make their own essential Daredevil. Brilliant. A masterpiece of storytelling, and just surprised the hell out of me. And that's just what I needed from Daredevil. After the bombshell that they left us with Foggy thinking he has cancer, I needed something just a little bit light to start this issue off with. So after that, we have the main story. We have Matt as Daredevil taking Foggy on the ride of his life, showing him Daredevil's world, all its excitement, the highs, standing on top of tall buildings and just looking, well, Foggy is looking down at this huge drop, but giving, you know, Foggy that kind of a little bit of light relief from all the worry he has. And there is obviously at the very end the doctor's prognosis of what is wrong with Foggy, and of course Daredevil, being Daredevil, knows beforehand what the actual outcome of the results are, and it is heartbreaking. It really is. Anyone who has ever been touched by cancer, whether it's a parent like myself, or a friend or a relative, just anyone, you just hate that feeling of being just about to be told. You know, it must be the worst feeling in the world. And Mark Waid respectfully shows this scene, and it's just perfect. Daredevil has been an outstanding storyline from the very beginning that Mark Waid's taken this on. Highly recommended. Rejuvenated Daredevil to such huge heights to make him not so much, because I do think in the Marvel universe he's very much considered a B-lister character. He's not one of the A-list kind of Avengers or Spider-Man or some such character, or a Wolverine, but he certainly deserves to be an A-list character. Now, yes, I should have had Saga this week. I'm kind of avoiding all reviews that I can see a Saga issuing. For some reason, they didn't have it, so I've missed out on that. I'll probably pick that up next weekend and throw it in a quick review of that when I get it. So yeah, that's it. I won't see you next Thursday, I'm afraid, but hopefully the weekend that follows that, I'll have at least a short kind of almost J-Mac experience homage, perhaps. So that's it. That's me out, folks. Thanks all for watching. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to my channel, give it a big thumbs up, and throw some comments down below. I always like to read your comments and try and reply to as many as possible. So have a great weekend, folks. I'm kind of looking forward to the new challenge ahead of me with my new job. So goodbye.